Welcome to We Learn, Virtual Learning Network. This is session number 26 of the subject The Study of Society, and the chapter is Social Roles. Topics to be covered are the concept of role, classification of roles, role systems, simple and complex, dimensions of roles, use of role theory. The concept of role. In everyday usage, the word role is used for the part an actor undertakes in a theatrical production or in a motion picture. According to Shakespeare, the world is a stage and each person is playing a role. In this view, all people are playing roles in life. In sociology, role and role playing have been developed as specific concepts. So in everyday usage, the word role is used for the part an actor undertakes in a theatrical production, and according to Shakespeare, this world is a stage and each person is playing a role, and in this view, all people are playing roles in life. The moment our role comes, we come in the picture, and when we are not there, we exit. Role as a dynamic aspect of status. The concept of role was initially developed by Ralph Linton in 1936. According to Linton, individuals occupy positions in different aspects of social life. In Linton's words, statuses are the polar positions in patterns of reciprocal behavior. A polar position comprises a collection of rights and duties. So basically, a polar position comprises of rights and duties where roles is given a dynamic aspect, where roles are considered as an important aspect of status in society. Refinement of the concept of role. Newcomb in 1942 made a distinction between the expected behavior related to a position and the actual behavior. He pointed out that the way in which a person behaves may not always be what is expected of him. Michel Banton, 1965, further refined the concept and noted that a role is a set of norms and expectations applied to the holder of any particular position. So basically, role is the expected behavior. There are two types of behavior, the expected behavior and the actual behavior, and in which the person behaves may not be what is expected and can be what is expected. So what is role is a set of norms and expectations which actually is expected out of a person who is performing those duties and responsibilities. Banton distinguished between norms which are to be observed as a matter of course. These carry the social roles message that the holder of a role should behave in a particular kind of manner. General expectations which indicate that the holder of a position will behave in a certain way in any specific position. So general expectations which say that indicates that the holder of a position behaves in a certain way in any specific situation, and norms are to be observed as a matter, and social roles gives the message that the holder of a role should behave in a particular kind. Ascribed and achieved roles. According to Linton, roles can be divided into ascribed roles and achieved roles. The ascribed roles are those obtained at birth. Here, role learning commences at birth itself. Achieved roles are acquired by individuals through merit and competition. So, the roles which are achieved are acquired by individuals through merit, hard work, and competition. And ascribed roles are those obtained or given at birth. Then, role learning commences at birth. Relational and non-relational roles. Needle, 1957, adopted the principle of content of roles and divided them, like Linton, into two categories of ascribed achieved roles. He further subdivided them into relational and non-relational roles. A relational role can be played only in relation to a complementary role, while non-relational role is not dependent on a complementary role. A husband's role cannot be perceived without the wife's role. So basically, a wife and a husband's role is the complementary role. So a relational role can be played only in relation to a complementary role. Basic, general and independent roles. Banton 1965 outlines a threefold classification which is based on the differentiation. These three types of roles are basic roles and general roles as well as independent roles, which uses a scale to indicate. According to Banton, independent roles have few implications outside the concerned activity. Compared to independent roles, one's occupational roles determine other people's behavior in different contexts also. So the role of the person in a particular occupation, that also determine other people's behavior in different contexts. On the other hand, a person's age and sex roles define his or her conduct in most situations. So whatever age the person is or whatever gender the person is defined by that also defines his or her conduct and behavior in most of the situations. Ed and Southall 1959 classified roles according to the principal social domains in which they are exercised. They are 5: kinship, economic, political, religious, and recreational domains. So these are all the domains which are being classified and also that are also being classified according to the social domains. Roles in simple societies. Roles among the Bushmen are dependent on sex and age, kinship, affinity. These roles form a rigid role system in these societies. The role of spirit medium is the only role which is independent of this rigid role system. A spirit medium functions as a person who can contact the other world on behalf of society. The three bases of roles. Differences upon sex provide different roles to males and females. Age-based roles are also very important. The ties of kinship and affinity define mutual obligations among the people. So basically there are differences based upon the gender, that is also defined, and differences on the basis of age. Age-based roles are also very important, and the ties of kinship and affinity, the ties of family, the ties of blood relations, affinity also define mutual obligations among different people. Roles in complex societies. The simple method of role allocation by age, sex, and so on is then not workable because the king must have retainers. He also needs soldiers whose loyalty is primary to him. This obligation is even greater than the one to their kinsmen. The king rewards them for their services in money. So basically, the king rewards his workmen and also gives them money. So that is a role being performed by the king as well as the people who are under him. Social strata. Clear social strata estates make their presence nobles, commoners, and serfs. All the people in the same strata lead a similar existence, and in the medieval period, feudal system gave rise to a series of distinct groups: nobles, clergy, commoners, peasants in Western Europe. A pattern of closed social strata was formed on the basis of these groups. So basically, all the people in the same strata lead a similar existence. They lead a similar kind of existence, and the roles are being performed by different individuals, and different roles are being assigned to them or given to them according to their social strata and their social standing. Specialization and diversification. In industrial systems of today, the categories of sex, age, and kinship retain their importance for role allocation, but the major factor is the increased specialization of social tasks. Industrial societies require highly complex incentives. They also require a great deal of flexibility. Large business concerns cannot depend on one person alone. So basically, when the business has to be expanded, it cannot depend on only one person. And in industrial systems of today, the categories of sex, age, and kinship, they retain their importance for role allocation, and also the roles are being specialized according to the person's abilities and diversified according to the person's roles and the social strata. Multiple roles and role set. It is important to realize that one person can occupy more than one role. For example, in the area of kinship alone, one cannot avoid holding many roles at the same time. It is quite common to observe the situation of intra-role conflict because often a person occupying several roles faces opposite expectations in different role sectors. So basically, a person can occupy or have or enjoy more than one role. According to Merton, these role others with regard to a particular person form his or her role set. Merton distinguishes this idea of role set from multiple roles, which are several roles of the same person. A same person can also enjoy multiple or several roles. A role set, on the other hand, refers to role others in relation to a person playing a role. Multiple roles as well as the role set. Role signs. The area of role signs is a vast topic, and here we'll touch only the main points. In all cultures across the world, we find that costume is basic as a role sign that differentiates males from females. A role sign tells us more about a person or group. Just as a broken window is a sign of violence and a wasted appearance is a sign of ill health, a dress can serve as a sign of a role. So basically, the dresses of the costume of males is different from the costume of females, and that dress, that costume, that tells us, or that defines the role signs, and also it tells us, it can serve as a sign of a role, that what kind of costumes and what kinds of costumes and dresses are to be worn according to the role or the gender. Signs of basic roles. In social life, basic roles involve a combination of sexual differences, distinctions of age, and domestic relations. In modern Western society, efforts are being made to bring about egalitarianism in matters of domestic relations. Basic role signs provide us fundamental information about what we might expect in behavioral terms. So, in modern Western society, efforts are being made to bring about equality in terms of domestic relations. Signs of general roles. In using signs for general roles, the idea is to distinguish a role because of its relevance in a particular situation. Secondly, signs for general roles are also allocated on the basis of roles implications or role relationships. The role that is interdependent with other roles is likely to be distinguished by a role sign. In this way, role signs also serve to control and prevent deviant behavior. So, role signs that also serve to control and prevent the behavior which is not correct. Signs for independent roles. As independent roles have few, if any, implications for other roles, they hardly require role signs. When placed within a particular setting, such roles may need some distinguishing signs. Within an organization, such signs may serve a specific purpose, while for outsiders, these may simply be prestige signs. Role changing. To change role is often very difficult. The person must know the rights and obligations concerning new roles. He or she must change his or her behavior accordingly. Other people must also have to change their roles towards him or her. Role change therefore can be problematic as well. The person must know the rights and obligations and also the duties which are to be performed concerning the new roles, and also he or she also must change his or her behavior according to the changed role, and other people also have to change their roles towards the concerned person. Role change can be problematic and stressful at times. In almost all tribal societies, childhood and adulthood are comparatively difficult. A youth unable to pass his initiation test is in a bad position. He may never be able to marry if he lives among the bushmen. Thus, role changing here is a must if negative sanctions are to be avoided. A word about retirement and death. Retirement tends to be an individual event. Further, there is a sense of loss and despair. This comes from being jerked out of a particular routine. What follows is a lack of routine. Death itself is a period of adjustment for the widow or widower and others. So, role changing, this again, when the retirement happens and or when the death strikes, that is also a stressful time, and this comes from being during retirement. It comes from being a lack of routine. Role conflict and strain. Society is structured in a manner that keeps conflict of roles down to a minimum. Role conflict comes when commitment is divided between two or more roles. Role strain occurs in case of situations where a person does not fit into the slot given to him or her. If a woman marries but is sterile, this again creates role strain. The position is very difficult for a barren woman. Use of role theory. The concept of role has been applied in sociological analysis. In studying role relationships, we focus our attention at the complex nature of organizational links in social life. The functionalists view roles as the culturally defined behavior which is linked with particular social status. So the functionalists, they view roles as set by culture or set by norms and which is linked with particular social status. That was all about role changing and the concept of role theory and the way people behave according to their age, according to their gender, which is the role assigned to them. So these are some of the questions. Write a note on the concept of role and what is a role sign. That's all. Happy learning, we learning.